Germany. Before that, he was the Deputy Prime Minister for European Relations from August of 19 to March of 20, and also, like the minister, a career diplomat. So let's start. And Mr. Borrell, start with you. Why it is important to bring Latin American leaders into the conversation about responding to Kremlin aggression in Ukraine?
It's self-evident, no? It's self-evident, but it's a good occasion for you, Dimitro, to explain to Latin American people what this war represents, because people today are much more concerned about the consequences of the war than the causes of the war. People don't care a lot about, yes, okay, Russia, very bad, to invade the neighbor, these kinds of things should not be happening, but look, which are the consequences of that? And for the Latin American region, the consequences are very bad. The lowest growth rate in the world, the lowest, just 1.8. The highest inflation rate on the last 15 years. A big bust on the extreme poverty and the risk of famine. There were 4 million people before the pandemic, 8 million after the pandemic, almost 30 million now. So the economic shock is very big, transmitted through the channels of prices, energy and food. Not gas. Gas is for us Europeans. For them is oil and food, and mainly fertilizers. So the region is in big stress. And the financial problems, high interest rate, just another figure. The region has lost on capital outflows twice the amount of special drug. Twice. So we have explained to the region that this is happening, but is not the consequences of the sanctions. It doesn't work. It's not the consequences of the sanctions like the Russian narrative want to convince people around the world, but the war itself and the blockade of Ukrainian grain and fertilizers. So this is a good moment to keep in touch with our Latin American friends and to make them to engage more politically. Certainly in Latin America, only 3 countries, the usual ones, Nicaragua, Venezuela, and Cuba, abstained, not even voted against in the United Nations, only abstained. All others were very much supporting. But this support was decreasing when it came the moment to tell Russia out of the Human Rights Council. And there is a certain feeling, I've been talking with my colleagues, about can we bear the consequences of this war? And in this case, which is the way out? Because people want the war to finish and finish soon, but how? And we have to defend the idea that Russia cannot win this war. Russia cannot invade the neighbor and get some part of it. This is the important message that you have, I think, that we have to pass to the international community, and most especially to Latin America. And we will support Latin American countries on the green revolution, digital revolution, facing the challenges of food insecurity. Everything will be on the table, but now what we need from Latin American people is a strong commitment to support international law, to support the inviolability of the borders, the territorial integrity, the sovereignty. Latin American people are very much attached to it because they have been suffering in the past attacks to their sovereignty and territorial integrity. So this is a good moment to show that these principles are universal, they are value for everyone, and in particular for a country like Ukraine in this very, very challenging moment.
Thank you. Okay, Minister Kuleba, a similar question. Why is Moscow's aggression important for Latin America, and for you, for that matter?
So for us, and I want to end with this, these three principles, peace, sovereignty, and territorial integrity, is something that we have lived in our history. But the commitment that we all have is what Joseph and Dimitro have said. We are all part of the world because the world is interconnected. And this room represents that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. High Representative, how do you see EU cooperation with Latin America in dealing with the challenges arising from this war and perhaps other out-of-area crises?
Look, I am Spanish, so for me, Latin America is something that it's very much close to my heart, my culture, my history. But I think that the Europeans, we have been practicing a certain benign neglect with Latin America. Since we are so close, we don't have to care. And we have to care. And it's funny because the European firms have invested in Latin America more than in China, in India, in Japan, and in Russia together. It looks funny, but it's true. Our firms have been putting a lot of capital in Latin America. Our presence as investors are overwhelming. But our political focus on Latin America is not as big as it needed. And I hope that in next October in Argentina, we will continue working on building a stronger relationship between Europe. Europe is not just Spain and Portugal. Europe goes to the Russian border. And we are 27, we are 28, 27 now, and we have to engage more with Latin America. And this war is a good occasion for that. This war is a good occasion in order to show the transatlantic relationship is not just the North Atlantic relationship. There's another transatlantic relationship, there's the Southern Atlantic, and this has to be enhanced. And this is a good moment for that because we are talking about the hardcore of politics, war, territorial integrity, sovereignty. And our Latin American friends, you do, but others are a little bit less reluctant, have to understand that this is a moment in which they have to show their commitment with international law, with the Charter of the United Nations, and with the basic principles that sustain peace and cooperation in the world. We work a lot with Latin America on digital. We are building cables, optic fiber, to connect Latin American countries with Europe. We have a lot of prospects for energy cooperation because Latin America will be one of the biggest providers of hydrogen. And we hope that some Latin American countries can provide us with some more gas, because the big problem that we are facing in Europe today, as you know, is the risk of not having gas in winter. And Putin is waiting for General Winter. You know, General Winter has always come to the rescue of the Russian army. When things were difficult for them, Napoleon, Hitler, General Winter came. And he's waiting for General Winter, believing that we Europeans will be weakening if we face a prospect of low temperatures and not enough supply gas. So we will resist low temperatures if needed. We have to strengthen our links with you, with Latin America, because history is not enough, language, culture, religion is not enough. We have to look to the future, and I think that the strong partnership between democratic countries abiding by the United Nations Charter is a good way of enhancing our political relationship.
Thank you for that comprehensive answer. But you should never do this in public, but I will do it anyway. I'm a bit confused because we seem to have lost 8 or 9 minutes on the clock. So do I have time for another question? I'll take no as a yes. Actually, I'll take no answer as a yes. So, Mr. Minister Kuleba, what is the challenge for Ukrainian diplomacy in Latin America?
In Latin America? I'm you know, since the war began, I became particularly reluctant to generalize regions and even some countries. So there are countries like Guatemala who, you know, who support us because they believe, rightly so, that we are all on the right side of history defending the right cause. There are countries who are very friendly and supportive behind the scenes. It's like putting a hand and saying, we are with you. And there are countries who are politically supporting, are more kind of Russia-leaning in their narratives. But again, we had a famous football coach who used to say, the score is on the screen. And when you have a vote in the United Nations General Assembly resolution, the score is on the screen. And we see that, except some countries which Josep mentioned, usual suspects, right, Latin America supports the principles and that we are all defending because they are the principles of the UN Charter. The problem is how to make a country move from supporting the UN General something in the UN General Assembly and not supporting it in a different format. I will give you a quick example. We have a Crimea platform, an international gathering event, a summit, focused specifically on the issue of Crimean Peninsula illegally occupied by Russia in 2014. And it's interesting to see how countries who sign up under the same language in the United Nations are reluctant to join the Crimea platform and sign under the same language in a different format. And the argument I'm hearing from some of the colleagues is that we will continue supporting you in the UN, but not anywhere else. And this is the challenge in dealing with these countries. I think it's a very nice professional challenge too, how to make a country make a step forward and do more than what is being done under the umbrella of the United Nations.
That's a very interesting answer. Thank you. I'm told that it's now time to close down this panel. I thank our panelists. I thank also Minister BÚCARO for I apologize for not giving you a second question, but thank you all. Thank you, and thank the audience for immediately quieting down at the start.
She cries a rainstorm, she cries a river, she cries a hole in the ground, she cries for love, she cries a sad song, she cries a shiver, sometimes she cries for me too. Now I slip the night around her, and I hope she'll be okay. I just pray someone will find her side, but you'll always be my baby, though I'm leaving tonight. Every night I hear her talking in her sleep. She says, you know I'll always be there, and I feel like such a creep. Please take back the love she gave to me. Any time her grief may pass, just tell her